Hi, Tom from bkmnutrition.com, and today I want to talk about the optimal diet for muscle growth. What should you be eating in order to gain the maximum amount of muscle to complement the training that you're doing in the gym? So I'm going to talk about calories, macros, how much protein you need, how much fat you need, how many carbs you need, a little bit about muscle protein synthesis and what that is, why you should be aware of it, and some other things that you might not have thought about while you're trying to plan out your diet. So first things first, if you need to build a diet for muscle building, you need to know how many calories you need to be eating. And a lot of people I've found when I've been working with them don't eat enough in order to gain the muscle they want to build. So if you haven't worked out how many calories you need for muscle gain, go to my website, bkmnutrition.com/muscle gain calorie calculator. All the words are hyphenated, and or you can go on the front page, the link's there, and that will give you the calories that you need for muscle gain. So once you've worked out how many calories you need for muscle gain, you then need to think about, well, of those calories, how much protein do I need to be eating? How much carbs? How much fats? Now let's be clear about one thing, is that muscle is only built from protein. Carbs and fats won't help you build muscle. You have to have an adequate protein amount in your diet. Now there's been a lot of research done on this, and I won't bore you with the ins and outs of that, but ideally where you want to be aiming for is between 1.8 to 2.5 grams per kilo of protein in order to build muscle. That's sort of the optimal range that most research studies have come down in. Now, you can go above 2.5 grams per kilo. That's absolutely fine. It's not going to harm you if you do that. It's going to be no harm to your kidneys. But I wouldn't go below 1.8, especially if you're trying to maximize muscle building. You want to give the body as many building blocks as you can. Now, how that looks to someone who's a normal person, 1.8 grams per kilo or 2.5 grams per kilo. If you're a 100 kilo person, that would be between 180 and 250 grams of protein per day. So I'm about 92 kilos, so I aim for around about 230 grams of protein per day, and that is my optimal amount for muscle building. Now, when I used to do bodybuilding, you might not know this, but I used to be a competitive bodybuilder. I've won a few shows, I've been to the British Championships. I built a very, very good physique while I was doing bodybuilding, and I followed it, and I did it by following scientific research and also my own stuff that I learned along the way. So I am qualified to talk to you about this. I don't just talk about fat loss and stuff like that. I do actually still lift. I coach, and I have coached hundreds of people in building muscle and taking them to shows and getting them shredded for shows. So I do know what I'm talking about here. I'm not just some guy who's picked up a textbook and now thinks he knows what he's doing. I've walked the walk for this. And this video is from my own experience, but also science. So once you've got your protein down, 2.5 grams per kilo, I've gone higher than that. I've had clients going 3.5 grams per kilo. It doesn't negatively affect them at all. And actually what I've seen and what my experience is that really when I go above 2.5, when I'm more hitting 3.5 grams per kilo, that's where I see the optimal amount of muscle being built. Now, obviously there's a lot of other factors in place there, but what I am saying is that you don't just want to stick to the accepted scientific boundaries of 1.8 to 2.5. I did see more muscle building results come from going over 2.5. But like I said, I talk about science, I talk about experience. So I'm telling you what the science says, I'm telling you what my experience says. If you're between 1.8 to 2.5, that's a good start. Get to there first, because eating that much protein can be tough if you haven't done it before. Carbohydrates, you generally want to stick between 4 to 6 grams per kilo. So again, I'm 92 kilos. That's about 360 to 540 grams per day. That's normally where I lie in my daily activity. Obviously, if you're trying to keep a leaner body, you might want to go to the lower end of 4 grams per kilo. If you're not really bothered about gaining too much body fat and you want to maximize out your energy in the gym, go up to 6 grams per kilo. Now, textbooks will say things like 8 grams per kilo. You don't need that much. In my experience, I found that just makes you fatter. But there are a lot of bodybuilding coaches who will push massive carbohydrates amounts on their clients in order to restore glycogen after workouts and all other sorts of reasons. You don't need that much if you're just trying to maintain a lean physique while you're getting bigger. And I would say most of my clients are looking to not get fat while they're gaining muscle. They don't really want to get fat. They want to look good as well as being big. If you're a pro bodybuilder, you know, sometimes you don't really care about the fat in the off season, but most people I work with now are not pro bodybuilders. They are normal people who want to gain more muscle and they don't want to be fat with it. So between 4 to 6 grams per kilo, depending on your output. Say like things like leg day, you might want up to 6 grams per kilo because there's a lot of energy expenditure there. And if you're just doing some arms or some chest, maybe you just want to be at 4 grams per kilo that day, depending on what your lifestyle is. So come down between that amount. And fats, generally, I tend to keep between 0.5 to 0.7. So again, I'm 92 kilos. That's about 45 to 50 grams of fat per day. Now, I would recommend you get that from good sources like fish, eggs, lean steak, salmon, olive oil, avocados, those sorts of things. Most processed foods do have some sort of like trans fats or something like that in it, so I probably wouldn't recommend that. Although we do have to live a life as well as building maximal muscle. I do enjoy a chocolate bar every now and again. I do enjoy a curry every now and again. Just make sure that those fat sources are not the major part of your diet. Keep it to the healthy fat sources, high in omega-3s and 6s, things that are going to help you build muscle and not hinder and maybe make you more fat. So we talked about protein. You want to eat protein every 2 to 3 hours. Now, the reason for this is muscle protein synthesis. Now, what muscle protein synthesis is when you train with weights or you eat protein, you get a spike in MPS, muscle protein synthesis. What that spike does, it tells the body to start building muscle. Now that spike happens, it depends on what food you eat, the combination of food, how much food you eat, but the spike happens, it goes up, and then it diminishes over a few hours. Now here's the crucial thing, is that a lot of people have learned about muscle protein synthesis, and that the things like leucine and branched chain amino acids are the triggers for muscle protein synthesis. Well, leucine is, and then you need essential amino acids to keep the spike going, which is why you eat chicken, eggs, whey, that sort of thing. But people have known about this and they go, oh, okay, I'm just going to drink BCAAs all the way through the day because that means I've got muscle protein synthesis spiking all over the day. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to let the protein, the amino acids in the blood from when you digest the food, that has to dissipate and go out of the blood, so that there's a little bit of a deficit there, and you dip slowly. So you have muscle protein synthesis goes up, there's a line and it goes underneath that, and then you're into muscle protein breakdown. Now that's a normal part of everyday life and the body recharging. You need to have some muscle protein breakdown, but what we want to have is more muscle protein synthesis and less muscle protein breakdown. So you need to let the body start to get into that breakdown period, and then you hit it with some more protein, or you go and train, and that shoots your muscle protein synthesis up again. You can't try and spike it all the way through the day with eating protein all the way through the day, as in, you know, every hour, every half hour, or having BCAAs as a drink in between meals, because you're potentially going to offset your muscle building gains. That's something really important to remember. Don't have branched chain amino acids or essential amino acid drinks through the day. If you're going to have them when you're training, or have them with a meal to boost the protein content. And this is something I do with vegan clients and vegetarian clients in order to make sure we're hitting the right amount of leucine in the day to trigger that muscle protein synthesis. I ask them to eat or drink BCA drinks or an essential amino acid drink with their meals, just to make sure we're getting the right amount of protein. And I know vegans will say, oh no, but that's fine because you can get all your protein from food. Yeah, you can, but then you're talking about a massive amount of calories as well with that, because carbs come with most of the vegan protein sources. So in order to minimize fat gain, it's all about having lean protein sources with a bit of essential amino acids. But that's a bit of a tangent, sorry about that. Another thing is, I wouldn't overeat fats. Now, when I've seen people, old school people, and they're talking about going on bulking diets, they generally will eat anything that's not nailed down in order to get their calories up. Now, you only have to have around a 500 to 700 calorie surplus per day to maximize or optimize your muscle building. If you have a calorie surplus plus super amounts of protein, that's the optimal environment for building muscle. Once you go past a certain level, having more calories is not going to be beneficial. It's probably going to make you fat. It's like when you turn on a light in a room with a dimmer, you can keep turning it up and up and up, but it only goes to a certain amount, but you might be burning more electricity doing that. Now, I would say that you don't need to have super amounts of calories in order to gain muscle. I used to gain muscle fine in the off season with a small calorie surplus between 500 to 800 calories a day, depending on the day. And that's what I would recommend that you do. And it's not a question of, oh, I'm on a bulk, so I'm just going to eat as much as I possibly can. Because if you start doing that, the body will very quickly start to lay down fat tissue, and that actually becomes harder to to build muscle when you've got more fat in your body. I won't go into reasons why, but it's to do with insulin sensitivity and to do with the body's split of body fat and muscle. So try not to gain a ton of muscle if you can possibly help it, and try not to overeat on rubbish just so you can gain more weight. Because certainly I work with weight loss clients where losing weight is the important thing, and when I'm working with mass building clients or muscle building clients, their thing is gaining weight. They have to gain weight every single day to be productive or to be looking as though they're doing the right thing. You don't have to gain weight every single day, and if you're actually looking to do that, you're probably going to be laying down fat tissue quite quickly. Saying if you've gained like 3 kilos in a week, that's not going to be muscle. There's going to be some fat there. So don't rely on this, oh, look how much weight I've gained in week, 2 weeks. It's how you look in the mirror that's the important thing. And overeating fats will generally make you fatter. Once you've reached past the point of keeping hormones steady, keeping hair, nails, and another body function healthy with the fats, and making sure you've got cholesterol and bile and all those other things, if you go over that point, it's a surplus. And what does the body do with surpluses? It stores them if it can't excrete them. And where does fat get stored? In your body fat. So don't overeat fats if you can help it. I would probably look to eat snacks from carbohydrates rather than protein because of the muscle protein synthesis. And obviously we don't want to have snacks from fats because then you're going to be eating more fats potentially. So I normally go for snacks as carbohydrates, and for those snacks I generally go for fruit stores. So bananas, berries, maybe yogurt, low-fat yogurt with some fruit. These are all low-calorie snacks you can have in between meals in order to keep your hunger at bay and to make sure you're having a good healthy diet as well as eating for muscle gain. And it's important to remember that when you're eating for muscle gain, it's not eat all the calories to hell with your health, because gaining a lot of weight very quickly is not good for your heart. And this is where a lot of people come unstuck. They generally tend to have health issues by gaining weight too quickly. Yes, we want to gain muscle, and muscle comes on quite slowly. We don't want to see a maximum amount of weight come on in a very short space of time. So if you're going to have snacks in between meals, make them carbohydrate snacks. That will keep your glycogen levels topped up. And it will also allow you to snack on a variety of things without necessarily going massive on the calories. Fruit is perfect for this. It's got a host of benefits to have. And fruit with a bit of bio yogurt will help you settle your stomach and help provide all the things you need to be maximally gut healthy and digest and process your food properly. I've talked about muscle protein synthesis already. You need to be aware of that. So you need to be eating 2 to 3 hours a day. You need to be training as well, probably 4 to 5 times a week with weights to failure. There's another video I've done about that, so I won't talk about that here. 3 times a week is sort of what I do now. I do 3 to 5 days a week depending on my childcare responsibilities. But if you only train twice a week, it's probably not enough. You want to take a muscle to failure, and you want to take it to a failure as many times in the week as possible. Research has shown that if it's twice a week is more optimal than once a week to failure. And I have built muscle building plans for my clients which hits body parts twice a week in varying degrees. So the old days of bodybuilding where you would just train chest on one day and legs on another day, that's gone. That's been pretty much proved to be not optimal. The more sensible bodybuilder nowadays, and this is how I used to train, this is how other people I have trained, now train and now coach their clients doing it, is where they hit a body part, they hit it hard and they take it to failure, but then they can train it again to a smaller degree later on in the week and also take it to failure. So I will go into that in another video and do it here, but you must be training to failure to stimulate muscle building and have the nutrition to support that. Now the last excuse me, the last thing you really need to think about when you're trying to bulk or trying to gain lean mass is that you're going to be putting the body through an overeating phase here. Now, like when you're dieting, if you restrict your food, the body starts to kick back and that makes you more hungry. Excuse me. If you overeat a lot, the body, yes, will start to lay down fat tissue, but also it will start to make you less hungry because it doesn't like the amount of food you're giving it. It likes to remain in a state of homeostasis, which is its a preferred level of body fat and weight and everything else. So if you start overeating massively, it will send cues back to reduce your appetite, to stop you eating, to stop you gaining muscle. Now, the mistake a lot of bodybuilders make, a lot of people when trying to gain muscle, the mistake they make is they just try and push as much food in, but they don't create variation. Variation is what gives our brains more entertainment when we're eating food. Variation gives our taste something to play with. It gives our mind something to play with, and it makes the food more enjoyable. Now, what I see a lot of people doing is they think, oh wait, I need to have this much this much protein and this much carbs and this much fat in a meal. So what they do, they then just go, right, okay, well for protein I'm going to have chicken, carbs I'm going to have rice, and then fats I'm going to have like olive oil or something. So all their meals are like chicken, rice, and olive oil, or like steak and like whatever, you know. And the problem with that is it's very boring and very bland. And although you might be a hardcore bodybuilder, you're going to get bored of that really quickly. And trying to shovel that in 3 or 4 times a day, it's going to be boring. You're not going to want to eat it. A better way of doing it, and this is the way I do it with my clients now, is we say, okay, well, if we want a protein, fat and carb meal, we can have some chicken there, we can have some rice, and we can have some olive oil. But what we can also have is a little bit of fruit afterwards, a bit of yogurt. We can have some nuts for some extra fats. We can have a glass of milk if we want to for an extra bit of protein. So our protein doesn't have to come from one source. Our protein can come from a bit of chicken, bit of milk, bit of yogurt. Our fats can come from a bit of nuts, a bit of olive oil, maybe a bit of avocado. And our carbs can come from a bit of rice and a bit of fruit. You can mix things up to make the meal more enjoyable. Maybe have a little pudding afterwards, something like that. Don't think because you're bodybuilding, trying to gain weight, you have to eat all this bland food and that's what helps. If you make your meals more enjoyable, you'll enjoy the process, your brain will enjoy the process, and because of the variation you're having, you will actually be able to eat more. So, and this is the key, if you're trying to gain muscle, you want to be able to eat all the food that you're trying to put in. If you're giving it bland food all the time, you'll very quickly get bored of that and you won't want to eat it. I've been in this situation where I've been trying to gain muscle for shows, and I'm trying to shovel in chicken and rice, 4 or 5 times a day. It doesn't get very, very good in your brain. After a while, you think, oh, another meal of that. You just don't want to eat it. And what you might do is you might end up going to McDonald's or something like that and not eating the right amount of macros, just eating a ton of crappy food because you want a break from your overeating. Now this sounds weird that you want to break from eating whatever you wanted to, but that's what happened. You'll go and eat something which is like cakes or something to give you some variation. So in order to stay on the diet and keep the diet within a healthy sphere, to take care of your heart while you are getting bigger, make sure you keep a variation of foods. Make sure you have good, healthy foods. Also have a little bit of crap every now and again because we all need that. But make sure that's to a minimum. And if we're overeating from good sources so that we can use that for our training, for our health, and maintaining a very good body rather than getting fat because we've overeaten too many calories. So that is how to eat for optimal muscle gain. Again, you can use my calorie calculator. It's BKnutrition/weight gain or muscle gain calorie calculator. That will give you a macro breakdown and also the calories that you need for muscle gain. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please like it, please subscribe, please share it with someone who might benefit from this, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.